although she's a professor of pharmacy, but a school administrator and someone who has excelled in the academics. We have Professor Newdawn Peace Babalola, the Vice Chancellor, Christland University here in Abeokuta. It's nice to have you join us on the program, madam.
Good morning.
Good morning. You are most welcome. All right. You also want to welcome our guest.
Yes, welcome, Professor Newdawn Peace Babalola. Just as our topic implies, talking about the suspension of reopening of school, by the federal government. Of course, mixed reactions have been trailing at that development. And you, as an education stakeholder, did that come as a shock, knowing full well that initially the federal government were already rolling out guidelines, towards reopening of school? Did that come as a shock?
Well, it's a little bit as a shock, and the issue is that everybody is unsure. People are not really sure of the extent of the pandemic. People don't even understand how it is moving. So when you look at various governments all over, some level of confusion. As I talk, there is hardly any university that has opened face-to-face. At least let me use in the US, in the UK. I may not be sure about Asia. When you listen to the PTF almost on a daily basis, you can see people are unsure. The leaders are not sure. So actually, in line with that, when we got the guidelines that, or information that school might resume, you would realize that no mention was made of tertiary institutions, just terminal students in terminal classes in primary and secondary school. So already we were clamoring. The Committee of Vice Chancellors for Private Universities, we have a platform. So we were already clamoring that they should also consider universities, especially the tertiary, the terminal students in their terminal years, before this information was again discounted. So yesterday there was a meeting of the Federal Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, with all vice chancellors in the country about this suspension. We spent hours on Zoom discussing it, and many people had various ideas. Urgent ideas, what should happen. Some are for, some are against. Most people are actually against, especially administrators from public universities where you have large volume of students. So if we must maintain WHO standard of social distancing and all the guidelines, it may not be achievable in some institutions. So it was argument of back and forth. So at the end of it, it was obvious that we're not resuming. You understand? But one thing is sure is that people are willing to resume, but are we sure that we will be safe? So if you notice, some countries that have resumed schools, they've had to shut down again, go on to lockdown again. So you can see a lot of confusion, and it's because we have not understood the pandemic. We've not been able to manage it. We can't predict what is going to happen. So that's what is making people, there's a lot of doubt. That's what I can say.
Okay. Now let's look at some of the information from the World Health Organization itself, which over the time, they have also made us to realize that we may have to stay and live with this for some time.
Correct.
Now, if that is the situation, Are we also going to live without opening our institutions as long as COVID is still around?
Yeah, thank you very much. That was part of what was said yesterday. It's
Okay.
like this infection, viral infection has come, and it might stay with us for a long time. So are we just going to be sitting at home doing nothing? For me, for instance, I know that with time we will all build immunity, but it's going to cost us lives before everybody gets either immunized by community spread or immunized by vaccine.
Okay.
Either way. So, but it's going to cost us lives, unfortunately. Either way. Although they make us believe, or we know from reports, that the death rate doesn't seem that high, but they are human beings. They are people we know. And we do feel the impact. So if that is the case, then we must find a way of managing it. Because if we continue like this, I'm sure in I don't pray we will stay 1 year at home, but probably by 1 year, we might be able to manage and control and contain it. Remember, the pandemic of 1918 to 1920 was 2 years. So if this is going to be like that, then we should begin to predict what will happen. We may be able to predict the number of people that will die, and then what can we now do to cope with it? We're already doing things to cope with it. But I think the main problem is that social distancing. Is it achievable in schools? And the students may be carriers and be asymptomatic. The teachers may have underlying health issues and may not be that young. Some students too might have underlying issues like asthma, sickle cell, things like that. So the thing we should continue to look for is how to manage the situation. It has come, we are human beings, we're bigger than this virus. We should be able to manage it.
But some people have been, some people have been raising issues with the free will that open market has been given. That the open market, if they open to business, and there's nothing like social distancing and all of that, that within school environment, perhaps the situation could still be better controlled than what we have in the open market.
Yeah, even myself, I always say, look, when you go to our market, there is no social distancing, and people are not dropping dead in the markets. But it's open. If you use the word open,
Okay.
we don't study outside. We study in classrooms where you have windows. And that's why they will tell you, if you're in the church, don't stay more than a certain number of hours and all that. So that's the difference, really. Yeah, and we're blessed in Africa because we have open markets. And the sun is shining on us sometimes, and that's vitamin D. And that vitamin D is a game changer when you come to this pandemic, so, and then it is diffusing kind of easily than being in an enclosed environment. I think that's the situation with it.
Okay.
But for me, I still feel that we should find a way of managing it, and that's what we're looking for.
Okay, Professor, I know you've been so vocal about getting COVID-19 solution. I read some of your articles at some point about the use of chloroquine, use of quinine, to solve this problem. So, but where are we in the quest, for a remedy globally and nationally?
Again, you see a lot of conflicting reports. If I begin to highlight conflicting report with respect to the use of the quinoline antimalarials, let me use that word, you will be amazed. It's almost on a daily basis. School of thought will tell you, oh, it doesn't work. The following day, you see another one, a proof that it works. You know, that's why we are scientists. We carry out research. But invariably, I've listened to so many Zoom webinars on COVID-19 and all that. The simple fact is this. If we're going to use chloroquine, we should use it for prophylaxis and early stages. And that's what I would even suggest. Once we can prove, I know it will work, but we need to carry out trials to make sure it works. And I'm on a team now, we're designing a trial for it. For prophylaxis, that's pre-exposure, post-exposure, and mild stages, mild to moderate. Once it can work, we open our schools and take the chloroquine as Sunday medicine, like we used to do. I thoroughly believe it will work. Quote me. Then for queen, at least it's cheap, it's affordable. I told people, look, I have 2 relations, first cousins, not second, not third. They all had COVID, and it was chloroquine that cured them. You know, I had to insist, tell your doctor to give you chloroquine. Because, you know, they were isolating at home, and it was just escalating, the symptoms. And I know one of them said, look, after taking it, he said, 2 days after, I said, this is my best day. You know, one, the thing had already entered her brain, and they all came out of it. Okay. At the late stages, it becomes too late for chloroquine to work. Then you are battling for life. You're already on life support, you're on oxygen, you're on ventilator. Most of those reports that said chloroquine didn't work, that's the stage. Hospitalized patients who are moderate to severe.
So there's need to actually emphasize at what stage, because
Yes.
when you listen to some people, they even tell you that this COVID does not even exist.
It exists.
That they saw some people that are in the isolation, they were happy, they were jumping and all of that. They don't know the difference between when it's still at the mild stage and when the infection actually...
Yeah, it's because we've not had an overwhelming situation like you had in the U.S. In the U.S., at those stages, those people in isolation center will be at home.
Okay, so they won't even
be in the hospital at all.
Critical
Just
ones.
go check it. US, UK, all those Spain and all that. Once you can move around and you're in your house, they tell you isolating your house. If you listen to the presidential task force, there was a time they said people might need to be isolating in their home, because if the isolation centers are overwhelmed, they won't be able to, hospitalize them. But now, everybody's in the isolation center, and they are not manifesting severe symptoms.
Okay.
So, but in these other countries where the data is coming from, we've not published our own data. To do all these trials is a lot of money too. I know pockets of trials are going on, but these people, they've done data, 25,000, 2,000, in thousands. But check it, it's mainly those that were hospitalized. Some that have reported effect with chloroquine, they didn't, if you don't allow it, if you now don't give chloroquine, you get to those stages.
Okay.
And there are doctors that will tell you, even in America, that's what I use for my patients, and they didn't have to get to those stages. The other one, the quinine, we're also trying to see whether there is similarity in the DNA, the RNA of this virus, and it's a hypothesis, so don't quote me. Why is it that the antimalarials seem to work? Even the Artemita, the Madagascar drink that has Artemisia annua, is effective against the virus. For quinine, why we're proposing that as well, quinine is used in severe malaria. It crosses the brain barrier, gets to the brain, gets to everywhere, because you can give it by IV infusion as well. So the chemical, what we call physicochemical properties are different from chloroquine, even though they're in the same class of drugs. Okay. So when people are in coma, that's when we give quinine most times. So that way it will cross the brain barrier. Listen to Richard Quest. He said he feels this thing is in the brain. Autopsies have been done to show that the virus occupies everywhere, from brain to toe. For the autopsies done. So quinine can cross that barrier during severe stages. And it's a hypothesis. And I know if we try, it will work.
But it seems the WHO is not in support of the use of chloroquine and quinine.
Yeah, it's not, because so sometimes if they study these reports very well, they will know that it will work. But you know, everywhere there are international and national politics on issues. If there are reports to show that some pharmaceutical industries will benefit from expensive drugs, you get what I mean? And can we afford it in Africa? Can we afford to pay for such drugs in Africa? In short, they've labeled chloroquine as a cheap African drug. That's the name. The cheap African drug.
But it's actually doing some bits of this healing process. Now, but let's actually, if looking at Africa with its abundant nature, green nature, and with a whole lot of herbs, roots, and all of that, that in some other somehow serious health issues, herbs have been used, and somehow we get positive results.
Yeah.
In this particular one, is it because it is novel? That's why Nigerian pharmacists and all of that are not really coming out strongly in terms of whether we can get something to deal with this in Nigeria, because it's within the time space that we all have around the globe that Madagascar came, and we are still testing what they have brought to us. I think Nigeria should have taken the lead.
Well, the issue is that we're doing a lot of, Nigerians are doing a lot of work, I can tell you that.
But they are not reporting it.
They're reporting. The issue there is that when we discover things, somebody like me, I believe, you know, in the universities there is this syndrome, publish or perish, but I believe in turning our research to products. So that made me set up what I call Center for Drug Discovery, Development and Production in UI, because we should be making and discovering and regulating our own medicines, and we have what it takes. The only thing we don't have is the financial support. It takes billions of dollars, not naira, to discover drugs. Yes. We want to do trials now on quinine, chloroquine, we're looking for money to do it. We're still discussing, where do we get the funding? It's money. All those people churning out papers for and against. When you finish reading, you will see this study was supported by XYZ grants. You know. So for phytomedicines, natural medicines, there are many reports. There are plants that have antiviral properties. There are plants that have immune boosters. And people are talking. NAFDAC has received at least, as at the last count, 4 or 5 products that should go through trials. All we need are the millions and millions of naira or so to do the trials. You have to do the antiviral test. At least I know there's the Plateau State set up a team headed by pharmacists and others. As at the last count, they've discovered something that can work or that may work. Yesterday, another university said, oh, they're discovering something that they can use as nasal spray. You know, the virus, because of the... So people have all sorts of things. Yesterday, I led a team, we are about 10. We submitted a proposal to TED Fund for herbal, to do research on herbal, you know, courtesy of Nigerian Academy of Science. So researches are going on, but the issue is that before you can come out and say this is a drug, it takes process. So the best we can do, NAFDAC first of all do is to register them as what we call supplement.
Okay.
Okay. So we're waiting for them to register some as supplements. Then before they can be registered as drugs, then you need to do a lot of clinical trials. But as supplements, yes, we can begin to use them. Okay? I agree with you. It's a shame that we do not have any drug. We can say this drug was, apart from the niprisan, the sickle cell drug that was discovered so many years ago. And it was also sold to a foreigner. And then the thing hit the rocks, and we are now back trying to gather ourselves together. I remember that time I was ordering that drug for my friends that had sickle cell children, and they were doing very well on it. At some point, I did my sabbatical in Niprid, and that was one thing that sold Niprid. I wish, you know, in a whole country of 200 million, there's only one drug, and even that we cannot confidently say we own. I mean, we have come out fully with it. But I know a company is interested in making it. Again, when you discover things, you need companies to pick it up.
Okay. Well, Western media currently reports the possible efficacy of remdesivir.
Yes.
You know, so how efficacious can that be?
Oh, it is efficacious, especially at the late stages. It's also a drug that is given by intravenous infusion. So that means you must really be ill. You get what I mean? You must really be ill. You must be hospitalized. You know, it's at that stage that it works. I'm not saying it doesn't work. It works, but it will be expensive. You know what I mean? That some people are also picking holes in it. There is no drug that is perfect. There is really no drug. It didn't work for Ebola, for instance. So it's working better for COVID than it did for Ebola. It was not it was not registered for Ebola. Even now, it's just being approved as what they call emergency use. You know, more trials are ongoing. Might even interest you that the person leading the trial in the US is a Nigerian. Yeah.
Well, I know that Nigerians all over the globe, when it comes to the area of science, medicine, we're doing very well. Are you not also worried with the Nigeria's precarious situation where scientists in Ivory Tower, in research centers and all of that are doing a whole lot of things and nobody is picking up to become a product? And that brings me to this same reopening and the closing and all of that. If Ivory Tower are where all these researches are done, and these same institutions are closed for a long time, are we not also drawing ourselves back, not even only in pharmacology alone, in some other areas of research findings, agriculture and the rest of it?
Yeah, like I agree with you, but it has also thrown a challenge to us, and people are picking up. If you read too, you will see a lot of universities that have designed either mechanized wash hand things, sanitizing booths, all sorts of things. I was highly impressed. God has really blessed us a lot. Yesterday, I'm just trusting God that we can do the trial on chloroquine. One thing I would suggest is that we take it as Sunday medicine, everybody in the university. You know what I mean? One tablet every Sunday. That would be a good discovery if we can have funding to carry out this trial. But you know, if we don't do that trial, it will not be approved. I pray that we'll be able to do it. And then, of course, medicinal plant farming now will go on. A lot of people are surviving because of it boosts. They are taking all sorts of things. They're taking garlic, you know, ginger, and all the things we use to boost our immunity are in the wild, in the farm, in the agri sector. We can plant them and harvest them. Even the Artemisia annua, there's Artemisia annua in Nigeria. We can grow them. I know I wrote proposals to cultivate Artemisia annua twice. So these things we can cultivate. I pray that the COVID will, you know what I mean, ginger us to do more. I am for turning research to products. In short, in that CDDP center, we had herbal teas, we had all sorts of products. but we needed money to even register with NAFDAC. That's where the issue is. You know, we pray and that there will be more collaboration between industry and research. But you know, they're also afraid. They want profit. They don't. Do you know that in the developed world, you can have 1,000 prospective compounds for a particular disease, and you will waste billions, and only one will be registered. The failure rate is high.
Okay.
Are indigenous companies able to sacrifice? Do they even have that kind of one? And then the foreign farmer, do they want to, you know what I mean, invest in that? The farmer wants profit. The researcher wants farmer to take it up. So they want to be able to take up a risk that they can have returns. So these are the issues. But aside from that, our government can. I mean, in America, we have what we call NIH grant. It's health grant. I've been on NIH grants a number of times. I'm on one right now. You know, we work in collaboration, but then we need to invest more. I know the CBN has released some calls and all that. We're just starting. Let me put it that way. We're just starting.
Okay. Now, you said something about NAFDAC registration, and I begin to wonder if I am a researcher in a federal government institute or institution, and I'm doing a research as an officer of the federal government. That means whatever is coming from that place, first and foremost, belongs to federal government. NAFDAC is also a federal government agency. When we have situations like that, couldn't there be a way around it so that the researchers would just not feel, having done all this, it's there in the shelf?
Yeah.
Rather than, I think there should be a way around it that federal government will say, okay, for these ones coming from our research institutes, you must take it as part of your responsibility to confirm that our officers are doing this for our own good.
Yeah, I think such discussions are actually going on now with the COVID. You know, there was a time, I mean, the government, they told NAFDAC, you know what I mean, you do this, you do that. But they also need funds. Everybody, NAFDAC needs funds. The researcher needs funds. There, for instance, for you to register a product, you have to have a facility, building. Yesterday, a lot of those universities were complaining that, look, their IGR is 0, and they're even government universities. They are getting full salary. The private universities is a different cup of tea. If we don't reopen, many of us will be shut down completely. Because you make your money, the little money you make from students paying fees. In the government, whether they pay fees, they don't even pay fees. Whether they pay or not, they get their full salary. So you also, that discussion is going on. But for you for NAFDAC to register a product, it starts with premises. You must have a particular, I remember when we developed, you know, it's not a new thing. I mean, we made sanitizers and all that when Ebola came. And we wanted to register it. But then they need a particular facility. And the university didn't have money to give us that facility. And if you don't have that number, you can't go further. It's a whole cycle. I think, like you said, the government we need to speak more, network more. Government, debt fund, I mean, institutions, debt fund, NAFDAC, you know what I mean? We need to, and of course, the private universities are actually left out. The debt fund doesn't even cover them. Yes.
Okay.
So,
now, let's look at virtual learning.
Okay.
This COVID-19 era.
Yeah.
Of course, virtual learning seems to me as now a substitute, you know, for classroom learning.
Yeah.
You know, how effective has it been?
Very effective. I'm actually excited about it. You know, I didn't know it had this much value until now. You know, it is, I find it more effective from my experience, because what happened was that in Chrisland, we had even told ourselves that this session, technology will, IT will talk, that we will use IT, not knowing there will be COVID. So immediately the tension was rising. I knew there would be lockdown. So we quickly did a training for the lecturers, just one day training on how to teach online. We brought some people and they did that. And immediately we started. Google Classroom, Zoom, WhatsApp, Facebook, everything we could use. And I logged on as a teacher myself, as a VC, to monitor a lot of those classes, and I was amazed. To start with, you discipline, both there's discipline on the part of the lecturer, on the part of the student. We used our normal timetable. You know, I haven't opted to teach. I'm going to teach today. So you use your normal timetable. By 8, if you log in, it will show the time you logged in. Assignments are given, it shows when you submit assignments. You can do group presentations. I've watched group presentations on WhatsApp. Very interesting. And I don't think that the only thing they are missing is face-to-face. That's one. 2, and they can do, if we do Zoom, it's just because it consumes data. 2, the laboratories. But even at that, I said, let's do e-labs. People were able to go to e-labs. We watched some of the best laboratories in the world simulated. You know what I mean? I remember the physics lecturer videoed himself do the experiment, forwarded, they read the readings, they plot their graphs. So by the time they come, I would just say for the lab-based, you can cover up to 60, 80%. But of course, it's going to affect medical programs, medical students, nurses, you know what I mean? Those ones you need to touch patients. So those are, is graded. If you really don't have lab, it could be almost as good as 90%. If you have lab, it could be as good as 60, 80%. Then if you're a medical, you know, hands-on, then we just must find a way. Although there are simulated systems now for cadaver, for anatomy, for any type of, there's what you call same man, same woman, that can mimic any disease. Yeah, that you can use to practice. That's how far technology has gone.
So, how much of a challenge is internet connectivity?
Oh, it's a challenge because, I mean, we all face it. First and foremost, I want to really congratulate the staff, especially in Chrisland. I mean, they've sacrificed a lot of their data, personal data. I promise I'll give them some palliative. I pray I get it. The students as well. So, of course, sometimes the network may be bad. For universities now, we are upgrading our own system right now. We are laying fiber optics. We want to increase our bandwidth from 5 to 30. You know, before we run the exams. So for the students too, if we have money or we can encourage them, the kind of network they should use. But it's being used to conduct exams. Some universities have used it perfectly. And I've watched it, it's good.
So some people are also scared of the effects of continuous lockdown of schools, particularly at the level of primary and secondary. That if this persists for too long a time, more than 30% of these pupils and students may not return back to school, possibly by the time the school will be reopening. Some of them will have been learning some vocations, this and that, and that's why some people are worried that ordinarily you still find that maybe by nature of growing children, at times not want to go to school, except where you have a situation in schools that they always want to look up to. It's not in all cases, but I am just trying to pick some pockets of what may. Is this not a problem that school manifests eventually?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There are pros and cons for everyone. There's what you call risk-benefit ratio. You have to weigh it. What's the risk of coming back to school? And what's the risk of not coming back to school. I think what we should do is to give it till the end of the year. I believe that by January we might need to take the risk. I don't know what's happening in your state critically, because I know school started on Monday.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they are stopping or continuing. If they are continuing, then we can use them as the benchmark. So if it works, then I'm sure people will be bold. It's a risk that the governor has taken, and if it works, I don't know whether any other state is going to school. I don't know whether Cross River, so it's a big risk. So yeah, but the issue of people dropping out, we might have to create awareness. So parents, don't let your children drop out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Get them, have places where go to marketplaces, use whatever means we use. It's a community issue, and we make sure we address it that way. Children go to school, or you give them incentives to go to school, whichever way, you know. Right. So that's the way I look at it.
Okay. Okay, let me take you back a little bit. I could recall that the Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, also hinted that the Nigerian students may not sit for a WAEC. What does that really portend for the sector, and of course for maybe private universities?
Oh yeah, immediately he said that, I projected far immediately. I said, I believe they can take WAEC. All you need to do is to stagger it, in my own opinion. If you see social distances, after all, we take JAM. And we have all those, since schools are not even in full session, WAEC, you can use a whole school to stagger them and take the WAEC. You know what I mean? You call students for WAEC. If this is a school, your compound is a school, you call only those doing WAEC. And scatter them. I mean, it can happen for me. That's my own opinion. And the way it will affect us is that private universities are ready. All of us are studying, and some have concluded the session. Ready to admit, only 30% of people that took JAMB or UTME have WAEC result. So are we going to, those are the questions we're asking. How are we going to admit students, those of us that are ready to admit? And if we don't admit students, how are we going to survive? So I've already projected it that WAEC can take place. It's social distancing you need. And they need to progress.
All right. It's still Newdawn, Friday edition of the program. And I must tell you that guests in the house so far has been doing justice to the suspension of reopening of schools. You can be part of this interactive session. You can call us. The number will be on the screen very shortly. 080-3044-2929 is the number. You can call us, and let's hear your view or views on the suspension of the reopening of schools across the country. Now, for someone who is in the profession you belong to, as a pharmacist, a whole lot of things still lie on people like you to find solution to this.
Yeah.
How realistic is this? I know you have mentioned the cost, some of the issues which has to do with funding. But in terms of actually finding the herbs that could do this, how readily available do you see all of this?
Those herbs are available. Actually, we will soon submit a review publication on herbs that have antiviral and that are immune boosters. They are available. God has blessed us with good diversity, you know. And it's just for us to harvest them. Do you know there are...
Sorry, ma'am. We have a caller. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, your name and where are you calling from?
This is I'm calling from Koshofe.
Koshofe. That's in Lagos State.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, your contribution or question?
Yes, I quite agree with Prof. So we should pray because of the school and especially the private school. Let the PTA be the inspector. Let the PTA go around the school and see if the school is okay for their children to go. And I believe because the PTA will be the inspectors will still have the how conducive the environment is. The school will want to be up to the task and let the children resume. Because what the children are experiencing at home is beyond the company itself.
Okay. All right. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Yeah. That's another experience someone is
Yes,
sharing.
you know, even the older ones are so bored. You know, we tell them not to go out. My dad is 87. He has not gone to. The day he wanted to go to church, I said, no, don't go anywhere. He sat down. And when you call them, they are bored. How much more younger ones that are playing around? So I also agree with him. But like I said, like many private schools are ready to open, from primary to tertiary. So, like one of the suggestions yesterday was that give us guideline. Go to the schools. Anyone that does not meet the guideline, and then they don't open. Those that meet the guideline, they open. And then you check from time to time, monitor from time to time. So I agree with that.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, your name and where are you calling us from?
My suggestion is especially in Nigeria, we don't know the law. So I believe if they say do this, you do. They are believing that not all this, what is happening is not happening. And I believe if they take serious that everybody must wear face mask. You can see that they know some people are out there, some people are romancing. So if they make children, even that is not important.
Okay.
They can be playing because they don't know what is happening. It's only few people believe because always I always come out. I go because somebody say, I do not pass all this your base mask. I say that is very expensive. I started to protect myself and protecting the other.
Okay. All right. So it's that people still not believing in all of these preventive measures. Even be saying that some people will say, "What's this your mask all about?" and all of that. You know.
Well, it exists. It exists, and I mean, we can. I know it exists. I have experienced.
I think part of the
it
problem we have in this part of the globe is that, unlike what we see in some other climes, where patients, even in the hospital, at least fair use of their images, and people do see them that, okay, this is a patient undergoing some medicals and all. But in Nigeria here, everything is about stigmatization. Even despite the fact that some people came out to say, we have, and we are going to isolation, okay, we have recovered and all of. This stigmatization thing still make people not want to let people see their faces, and it makes part of the problem. People don't believe. They say they are just counting scores.
Oh, I think it exists. Even yesterday, I saw one, they showed a ward, and they were not covering their faces. They showed a medical doctor who is in the hospital, hospitalized on the bed. And they were all talking there, sharing their experiences. So we will continue to make the noise. Everything is awareness. So we shouldn't stop. Continue to make the noise. And that's why I said, if there are guidelines and schools can meet it, then let them open. Even in Oyo State, they're wearing masks. They set guidelines. Yes, they set guidelines.
Okay, well, this is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of the program. Many thanks to you, Professor Chinedu Babalola, for coming. I think it's been quite enlightening and, of course, informative. And to our viewers, I also want to say many thanks for watching. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and, of course, do have a lovely weekend. Bye for now.